No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of AEW Dynamite for Wednesday, January 24th, 2024. We are on the road to AEW Revolution. We were in Savannah, Georgia for this week's show. Not a very big turnout for AEW, one of their lowest attended shows outside of Daly's Place, to my knowledge. I think around 2,500 fans in attendance for this show. A little bit depressing, but the show must go on. Let's get to the recap. We had Samoa Joe, the world champion, come into the ring for a promo. He talked about how opportunities must be earned by the AEW superstars. I thought this was interesting because AEW is always talking about professional wrestlers and wrestling. So when you hear Samoa Joe calling the talent backstage superstars, that threw me off a little bit. Anyways, we had Hook show up. Hook lost to Joe last week, but kicked out of the Muscle Buster at one. Hook got on the mic, admitted that he lost. He went to shake Samoa Joe's hand, but then said that he doesn't know when, but one day he will see Joe again. Joe told him to get in the back of the line, and then we had security come out there. Hook beat up the security, left them all laying, and took his leave. So this was to rehab Hook a little bit after that loss. Beats up the security. Samoa Joe stuck around for commentary. Our first match of the evening was Hangman Adam Page versus Penta. Now they're pushing Adam Page to the main event, so of course Penta's not winning this. It's basically a showcase match for Hangman Adam Page, and they did the usual no fear from Penta, and then you had Page saying cowboy shit in response to that, and it was back and forth with these guys. They traded clotheslines and kicks, double clothesline, both guys down, and then Penta did a big dive after the break. Hangman had to turn up the aggression. He started biting Penta. Penta was able to avoid the buckshot lariat, and he hit the Made in Japan, but Page kicked out. Page hit the dead eye on the apron, came off the top with a moonsault to the outside, got him back in the ring, and finished him with the buckshot lariat. So pretty much exactly what you would expect here. Page gets the win, and then backstage we had Orange Cassidy. He accepted Roderick Strong's challenge for Revolution, but he pointed out that the show was like in 6 weeks. So he's going to keep defending the title, and he's got a match coming up here soon. I believe he's going to be defending it on Collision. So there you go. We also had the Young Bucks backstage, Nicholas and Matthew Jackson doing the whole EVP thing now, and they confronted Top Flight about showing up late, but Top Flight pointed out that they were actually there early, and the announcers brought up how the Bucks just got there to the arena, so they're a bunch of hypocrites. Continuing this new heel direction for the Bucks. We had Wardlow versus Trent Beretta, which, I mean, I'm sure there are some Trent fans out there, but this should have just been a complete squash. It wasn't. Wardlow destroyed him for a while, but then Trent, out of nowhere with a small package, almost got the victory. And after the commercial break, Trent started to make a comeback. And eventually, maybe about 5 minutes later than it should have been, Wardlow got the win with the last ride powerbomb. And we did have Adam Cole and the Undisputed Kingdom out there. Is it just me, or do these guys already feel like an afterthought? Like, after turning against MJF at World's End, I brought up how they really needed a strong follow-up. Like, these guys need to be the focal point of the show, and they're just out there in a random match. I mean, part of the problem, of course, is that Adam Cole is still hurt. So what can you do? But yeah, at least when Bret Hart was injured, when he was doing the Hart Foundation, he had them out there and he was still representing the group and he was still the focal point of the show. I just feel like this group is already losing its luster, in my opinion. We had Renee Paquette on the stage with Dianna Perzo and the AEW Women's Champion, Toni Storm, timeless Toni Storm. And they did a little cool thing here where they had Tony's side of the screen in black and white, which was playing up on the whole character. And then when it cut to a shot of just her by herself, the whole screen was black and white. I like this. I like the little creativity here with this. And they went back and forth, and Tony brought up how Dianna was body shamed on social media. And then Dianna talked about their friendship and pointed out that they had matching tattoos. And Tony threw her shoe at Dianna. Dianna threw her shoe back. They started fighting. Luther got taken down and Tony fled the scene. Dianna picked up the championship that was left behind and held it up. It was a solid segment to build up their match coming up soon. We had Jon Moxley backstage just basically saying 2024 is going to beat people up. I mean, that was the gist of it. And we also had a backstage promo from John Morrison, Johnny TV, Johnny Dynamite, whatever he's calling himself these days. Him and his wife, Tyra Valkyrie, are now, in addition to being a real life couple, they're paired together on screen now. And Tyra challenged Dianna to a match for next week, and her and Johnny started making out. I mean, it's something for them, but I mean, I don't see Dianna losing next week, so Tyra's going to take another L here. Not really going to do much for her long term. Both of them feel like afterthoughts, especially Johnny TV, who was, a pretty big star in WWE, and now he's just a complete afterthought. I mean, it's kind of crazy to think that when he was chasing after the 24/7 title, he had more relevance than he does right now. It's pretty sad. We had Swerve Strickland versus Jeff Hardy. Crazy to say in 2024, when Jeff Hardy's booked in a match, he's got no chance of losing when he's booked against somebody like Swerve Strickland. Like, Jeff Hardy is basically enhancement talent now. Now, they planted the seeds for a potential heel turn for Jeff Hardy, but there was really no clear sign of that on this show. Like, on Rampage, I believe, Darby beat him, and then Darby wanted a fist bump, and Jeff Hardy just left the ring. But here it was just babyface Jeff Hardy versus Swerve Strickland. Match was solid. You had Matt Hardy out there doing the cheerleading, getting the fans to chant Hardy's house instead of Swerve's house. Jeff hit a twist of fate on the steel steps, but then when he went for the swanton, Swerve was able to avoid it. Swerve hit the house call kick, went for the pin. Jeff Hardy kicked out, so Swerve busted out the Swerve stomp and got the win. No surprise here. And then backstage, Swerve confronted Hangman Adam Page, and next week they are going to choose each other's opponents. So Swerve will face somebody that Page selects, and Page will face somebody that Swerve selects. And my guess is they're gonna pick guys that will end up doing the job. But that's what we got coming up on next week's Dynamite. And then we had Thunder Rosa versus Red Velvet. Not much of a match here. right at your 9:15, 9:30 time spot, the usual time for the women's match. Just a showcase for Thunder Rosa, her first singles match on Dynamite in quite some time. Velvet did get in some offense, but Rosa picked up the victory here with the Tijuana Bomb and teased that she's going after Toni Storm. We had Tony Schiavone in the ring interviewing Sting and Darby Allin. Darby talked about how when he was working out with Sting, he realized Sting still had it. They had their run. They've been undefeated, 20-something matches. And then as they were talking, we saw Matthew and Nicholas Jackson backstage on the headsets. And Darby said that he thinks that they should be the number one contenders. He asked if Sting wants to end his career as tag team champions. And Sting said that he's all in. Next segment, we had Ricky Starks and Big Bill responding to this challenge, and they accepted it. And it was confirmed that that match will take place in 2 weeks on AEW Dynamite. And I suspect we're going to get tag team champions. Sting and Darby will defend against the Young Bucks, or the middle-aged Bucks at this point, at Revolution. At what point do we start calling them the middle-aged Bucks? Just wondering. Maybe now, since they're Matthew and Nicholas, they're no longer young. They're distinguished middle-aged men. So I guess we should start calling them the middle-aged Bucks. We had a 6-man tag team title match, the AEW Trios title matches, or title match. The Trios titles on the line. We had the Acclaimed with the Bang Bang Gang versus the Mogul Embassy. Now, the Mogul Embassy lost the Ring of Honor tag team titles, or Trios titles. I believe they're the ones that lost the titles. So why are they getting a title match for the Trios titles? I don't know, but you guys know my rule. Whenever Brian Cage is on a Dynamite match, it's pretty much an instant win for whoever's going against him. I mean, it's just the way it is with Brian Cage at this point. And I don't even know who the other two guys are. I mean, I can't distinguish one from the other. And it was your basic match. And Prince Nana tried to interfere. He slid the steel chair into the ring. Jay White ended up pulling the chair out. And then Nana was power bombed through a ringside table by the Guns. And the Acclaimed hit their big moves on one of the Mogul guys and picked up the victory. No surprise here. And yes, Brian Cage did not eat the pin, but if he's in a match, it's an L, whether it's tag, singles, trios. If it's on Dynamite, Brian Cage is losing. We had our main event of the evening, which was Adam Copeland versus Minoru Suzuki. And it was a good match, and I knew going in what it was going to be. I knew going in it was going to be a good match, and they were going to do what Suzuki does in every single match. And it's always entertaining, but it's very predictable. They do the thing where they exchange the shots back and forth. They punch each other back and forth. And Copeland got knocked down a couple of times. And they fought outside. They both crashed through the barricade. And they had a cool camera shot of both of them. And then they got back in the ring and they did more of the trading of shots. And then they both collapsed, which we saw that in the opening match. Both guys knock each other down. I mean, not only is it common in every Suzuki match, but it's like every big AEW match where the guys trade shots and then they both get knocked down. Crowd chants, "This is awesome." You know, it's the same thing. It's the same routine, and it's an entertaining routine, but it is predictable. And you know, when this match was booked, I know people were excited for it, but it's like, you know, there's not a chance in hell Suzuki's winning this. But it was fun for what it was. Like, you know, you know what to expect. You know, a candy bar tastes good. You know what it's going to taste like. It's still good. Suzuki put on an arm bar. Copeland was able to get to the rope, and then Copeland hit a spear, which Suzuki kicked out of. So they gave Suzuki that. He got the kick out, and Suzuki recovered. He applied a rear naked sleeper. Copeland was able to escape, and then there was an unprotected turnbuckle. I'm not sure why they needed to do this, but Suzuki went into the turnbuckle, and Copeland, excuse me, picked up the win with Christian's kill switch finisher. I'm not sure why they needed to have Suzuki go into the turnbuckle, I guess to make him look strong in defeat, but was it really necessary? I don't know. And kicking out of the spear too on top of that. So, I mean, they did protect Suzuki, even though I don't think anybody thought for a second he was going to win this match. Why not save the spear kick out for a pay-per-view or something like that? I don't know. Anyways, you got to get the "This is awesome" chant. That's why. So after the match was over, Copeland gave him props, offered a handshake. Suzuki declined and left the ring. And then Copeland said he's still coming for Christian. And that was the end of Dynamite. So that was it for the show. No big angle and not much happening on this show. Kind of a lifeless show. Like, we had some good wrestling on the show, but I just felt like an overall lack of energy on this Dynamite. And, the crowds are dwindling. Like I mentioned at the beginning, one of the smallest crowds, and it looked very sad on TV. Like the whole arena was dark. It looked like a TNA show, like from recent years. I actually was curious, and I went back on YouTube and watched a couple of Impact Wrestlings from like 2013 when they were starting to go downhill. I mean, they already were, but I noticed that for those shows that they were doing on the road, like the crowd size looked fairly impressive compared to what Dynamite is doing lately. Like, it's a sad state for AEW. Now they're still getting good viewership. They're still in that 850,000 range, 900,000. So they're holding up, and their pay-per-views are still doing good numbers. So not all hope is lost, but man, like, they need a shot in the arm. I don't know what that is. I don't know if it's a new person or a new storyline, but the brand is really starting to feel stale. Like they're just on a treadmill. And for people saying I'm negative about AEW, not WWE, I've said this plenty of times about WWE over the years. Like, there are times where it's felt like WWE has been on a treadmill, and like they're not progressing, and the characters all feel stale. And that's very much how it feels with Dynamite right now. And as Uthman points out, at the end of the day, if Warner Brothers Discovery is happy, then AEW will be fine. They will survive. But right now, it definitely feels like the lowest point in AEW history. Like, they've really cooled off. They've lost the momentum that they've had over the past few years, and I'm not sure what you do. Like nobody feels hot right now. Even Swerve. Like, Swerve felt like he might have been the next big thing, but I feel like he's cooled off, even though he's been in the upper card. I think losing that tournament hurt him a little bit. Swerve has gotten cold. Paige has gotten cold. The Acclaimed, they've gotten cold. Joe is maybe the highlight of the show. And you got Hook. They might have something with Hook, and the follow-up so far is so good. They had him beat up the security. They're keeping him strong. So maybe there's something with Hook. I don't know. I'm willing to give it a chance. But yeah, this just felt like a very lackluster show overall. I have to give the show a C. It was okay, but they're definitely lacking right now. And as Michael Wayne pointed out, Kenny Omega being hurt, he got cold even before he left. That segment with Chris Jericho was not too good. And MJF being gone is a huge void. I know he's only been gone for a month now, but I mean, the show is lacking without MJF. And Chris Jericho, Ricky Starks and Big Bill. Ricky Starks was red hot a couple years ago, and he's one half of the tag team champions, and he feels cold too. Like, nobody seems to really have any momentum right now on this show, on this brand. Just my take on it. I know some people are loving AEW, and it's still a watchable show, but I feel like something's got to give here at some point. They gotta reignite that ignition. They gotta get that flame burning again. Like, something needs to be done here. That's my take on Dynamite this week. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, give it a thumbs up. If you're an AEW diehard and you hate the video, then, well, never have to watch again. Thank you all. I appreciate it. I'll be back next time. Enjoy the rest of your week and stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest, and I will see you all next time.